Hi, what is a business case? So I've been asked this a few times, and a business case is something that I love. It is the main thing that we do at Whitney Consulting. It is something that I have spent many years working with. A business case is essentially a massive grant application. So it is a very complex document. Usually, it's hard to say, but they can be 40 odd pages. I have seen business cases that are hundreds of pages. Usually those business cases are the ones that as an assessor I was not happy with, because it's just too long and repetitive and usually gives you far too much information. Business cases should be around about the 40 pages and then have some attachments for further detail if you need to do a bit more due diligence. But essentially what a business case is it tells you everything about your project. So it talks about the need for your project, the demand. Then it talks about what your project is. It goes into how your project aligns to all the strategic directions and policies of governments and various other organisations in the industry. It then talks about the cost and the benefit. So the cost of the project, how much it's going to cost, goes through all the budget details. But then it talks about what the benefits of the project will be, what the outcomes will be from doing the project, and how the cost compares to the benefits. So whether or not the benefits are going to outweigh the costs. It talks about the feasibility of the project, so whether or not it is something that is going to succeed. It talks about the viability, whether or not it is something that on an ongoing basis is going to be able to be continued. So if it's a building, for example, are you going to be able to fund that on an ongoing basis, or is it going to be built operational for a year and then no one can afford to run it? So it talks about all of that ongoing viability, what the income and expenditure will be into the future. It also talks about the milestones, so what you will do, exactly the tasks, how long they will take, and the time frame of the project. It goes into the background, so the history of the project, the history of the organisation, all of that sort of information that people need to know, whether there are similar projects happening at the same time or similar things going on, if it's infrastructure, where the nearest facility is, all the statistics and the background of your organisation and your location and the need. It goes into the need for the project. It then talks into about various different alignments, so how you're going to align to various different government policies and procedures. So if you're a state government agency, for example, making sure you're going to comply with the buy local policy or any other policies that they have around local content or training or arts facilities. So it goes into all of that information. It also then talks about how the project will be implemented. So what's your communication plan? How will you communicate the project? Who's going to manage the project and what will they do from a project management point of view? What is the governance? Who's going to oversee the project? How often will there be meetings? How often will you report? In what form will you report? And who will you report to? It goes through the critical assumptions. So what assumptions have you made when you've created this project? It also talks about all the options that you've considered. So this is your project is one solution to a problem. What are all the other solutions? Why is your project the best option, the best solution to the problem? So it should look at all of those other options that were considered and why they are not the preferred option. It then talks about the risk. So it goes into a bit of a risk assessment to see what risks are involved with the project and how you're going to mitigate those, how you're going to make sure they don't occur. So that's a very quick snapshot of what a business case is. It takes a lot longer than that to write, obviously. It's very involved and complicated. It does take a lot of time, but it's something that I absolutely love doing, and it is absolutely necessary if you're looking for funding in the higher amounts. So usually something over 100,000, they're going to require a business case. So if you have any questions about business cases, give me a call, but hopefully that gives you a bit of a snapshot about what it is. It's just a very detailed description and information about your project to enable an assessor or a funding body to decide that, yes, this project is viable, it's feasible, and it's going to achieve the outcomes we want, so we're going to give it some money. Thanks very much.